Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 1 Minute Breakdowns for UFC London, Aspinall versus Tybura. First and foremost, I wanted to thank you all for the support you've been showing on the videos. It means a lot. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get this channel to 300 subs. Ongoing. Let's get this shit. But throughout the broadcast, go ahead and comment your predictions for each and every fight. I would love to hear what you guys have for these fights and what you think the method is or how someone's going to get it done. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get this rolling. Actually, first, sip of coffee. Shout out to my guy Seba. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for hopping on. All right, let's get this going. First fight of the night, we have Jafel Filo going up against Daniel Barres. Jafel Filo is going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage. He's also going to be the younger fighter by 4 years here. So we have, in my opinion, a pretty binary matchup here. I'm not saying Jafel Filo is not the best striker in the world. He's serviceable on the feet, but he's more of a grappler / wrestler. And we have Daniel Barres, who is just an overpowering striker. We've seen him finish a lot of people on the regional scene. Elite power. And I know you look at these guys, strength of competition, not the best. Jafel Filo obviously faced Mukayev. He had Mukayev in that nasty knee bar, which he didn't tap to. But great grappler. But when you look at Barres, he's somebody that has that power, that strength, and he has some pretty decent takedown defense. And as long as this stays on the feet, I think Daniel Barres is going to be live for a knockout here. So I favor Daniel Barres here. I think he's the more aggressive fighter, and I think he has the tools to be able and pick apart Jafel Filo here. So give me Daniel Barres, and what I think is not going to be a really close fight, contrary to the public's belief. My boy, Easy. I appreciate you hopping on, my guy. Appreciate you. Next up, we have Bruna Brazil going up against Shauna Bannon. Shauna Bannon is making her debut here. She's a fighter out of Ireland. She's going to be at a 1 inch height disadvantage and a 1/2 inch reach disadvantage. Both fighters are the same age at 29 years old. So Shauna Bannon, I'm just going to cut it really short here with her. I think she is mainly just a kick merchant. She can get a takedown here and there, but nothing really overpowering that I've seen in the tape, and also does not like to get hit. Every reaction that she gives when she gets hit is not the most pleasant sight to see for those who are backing her this weekend. I think Bruna Brazil, I know she didn't have the best debut. Chelsea Chandler just steamrolled her, but I think she has the tools here to get this one done and stay safe. At that minus 150 price tag, I think it's still pretty decent. I think she's going to be able to strike with Shauna Bannon and keep this fight at range, stay away from those takedowns, and be able to cruise to a decision win or even a finish potentially, just because of the way Shauna Bannon reacts. So give me Bruna Brazil for this one, and what I think is going to be an exciting fight. Next up, we have, I feel like, the Twitter debate of the week. We have Chris, or one of them actually. There's a couple of them on this card. Chris Duncan going up against Yanal Ashmouz. Chris Duncan is going to be the older fighter by 2 years. He is the taller fighter by 1 inch, and also will have a 3.5 inch reach advantage here. So here's how I see this one playing out. I do like violence. That's one thing. Both guys tend to strike more than wrestle, but Chris Duncan did show off those wrestling chops last time out against Morales. But the thing with Duncan is that his chin is a liability. And I'm not saying that he's chinny in a sense where he just gives up after he gets chin checked. No, he'll get chin checked and he pushes through it. Like, he's a tough guy. But I think Yanal Ashmouz, a lot of people were counting on him to be much smaller than Duncan here. And then when they saw those weigh-ins, they kind of flipped. Because when you see it, it's only a 1 inch height disadvantage, and the inch, it's 3.5 inches for the reach. So it's not that big of a size difference here. And I think the fastest striker is going to be Yanal Ashmouz. I think the more powerful striker is going to be Yanal Ashmouz. And I think he has the better chin. As long as he stays safe from these takedowns, I think Yanal Ashmouz is going to be live for a knockout in this spot. So give me Yanal Ashmouz and an upset here. Give me the dog. Shout out to my guy, Fight Talk Only. If you guys haven't already, please check out Fight Talk Only on Twitter. He creates some great graphics week in, week out for these events where he collaborates with a bunch of different Twitter users who give their predictions on each and every fight. So I appreciate the effort he takes to make these graphics. Really talented at what he does. Next up, we have Ketlin Vieira going up against Pani Kianzad. Ketlin Vieira is the favorite here. She's both fighters are the same age at 31 years old. Ketlin's going to be the taller fighter by 1 inch, and she's going to have a 2 inch reach advantage here. So this is how I see this fight playing out. I think Ketlin's going to be the much stronger lady in the clinch. If she gets the takedowns and controls Pani on the mat, which we've seen happen before with Pani, I think Ketlin can cruise to a decision win here. But the thing is, if she does not, I think Pani is the much better striker in this spot. Sure, Ketlin might have that power in the striking, but the volume, the technique is all on the side of Pani Kianzad here. So this one, in my opinion, is a toss-up. I am not going to be leaning towards any side. No bets here for myself, but I'm going to say Ketlin Vieira is going to be able to mix in the takedowns successfully and find that top time and possibly even get a submission. So I predict Ketlin Vieira to get this one done. Oops, one scroll too far. Here we go. We got Brian Barberena going up against Mahmoud Muradov. Brian Barberena moving up to middleweight for no reason? Question mark. Mahmoud Muradov is going to be 6'2", which is 2 inches taller than Brian Barberena. He's going to have 3.5-inch reach advantage here, and he's going to be the younger fighter by 1 year. So we all know what Brian Barberena presents to the table. He's a brawler, probably the poorest wrestler that Mahmoud Muradov has ever faced, and the striking is just very pitter-patter. He does put out some volume. He has hurt some people in the past, but he's starting to get up there in age. He's taken way too many hits. And against a guy in Robbie Lawler, who I know knocked out Nico Price last week, but he got into a war with Robbie Lawler, who is barely moving. And it's just not a good sight to see, especially when you're looking at his opposition here in Mahmoud Muradov, who is a very powerful striker, has 16 knockouts to his professional record. That's not counting the amateurs, and is a very good wrestler in his own right. So, I mean, I'm not really going to harp on this too much. Mahmoud Muradov is a minus 340 favorite for a reason here. I think Muradov gets this done. I think he probably gets this done inside the distance, but later on in the fight, probably via submission, even though the power is what I really rate with Muradov. I think he's going to shock some people with the grappling and wrestling and stick to it early and drown Barberena down the stretch. So give me Mahmoud Muradov. I think it's a safe parlay piece here. Next up, we have Mick Parkin going up against Jamal Pogues. Mick Parkin is making his UFC debut here. Both fighters are 27 years old. Mick Parkin is 1 inch taller at 6'4", and he's going to be at a 2-inch reach advantage here at 79 inches in reach. And I'm glad I took my time with these breakdowns this week, because looking at how Jamal Pogues presented himself on the scale today, he weighed in 10 pounds heavier than his last weigh-in, and it's not muscle. That's fat. If you look at the pictures, he definitely looks like he's out of shape. Didn't really work out all that much for this camp. Not saying that he didn't train or anything, but 10 pounds doesn't come from nowhere. He looked really out of shape, and I do like Jamal Pogues' speed. I like how he stays behind his jab. He has the wrestling to match it, but something on when I saw that picture on the scale just shied me away. I was going to be betting Jamal Pogues here, but I'm probably going to stay away. Mick Parkin is a decent wrestler in his own right, but I believe all his 5 wins are by knockout. Sorry, one of them by submission. The rest are all knockout. And powerful dude. I just don't think Jamal Pogues is fit to fight at the moment. So this is a toss-up. I do lean Jamal Pogues, though, if he is his ordinary self with the same speed. Next up, we have Mark Jacasey going up against Joel Alvarez, another Twitter debate of the week, although I believe 89% of the bets are on Joel Alvarez here. So Joel Alvarez is going to be the much bigger fighter here. 4 inches of height on Mark Jacasey, and he's going to have 4 inches of reach on Mark Jacasey. And both fighters are 30 years old. So in this fight, a lot of people see this where Joel Alvarez is going to finish Mark Jacasey, whether it's by knockout or whether it's by submission. Joel Alvarez is a very nasty grappler. He's really good on the mat, from his back specifically. And Mark Jacasey is going to go for takedowns. I think people are overlooking Mark Jacasey this week. I'm not going to go as far as to say that Mark Jacasey is going to win, But Joel Alvarez is nothing too special in my opinion. I think Jacasey, if he wants to win this fight, it's going to be through the grappling. We know that Joel Alvarez has 0% takedown defense, but he's only been taken down, I believe it's 6 times in the UFC, if I have that number correct in my head. Jacasey can lay and pray here as long as he stays safe with a submission defense. I think he can ride it out and win at least a round here. And part of that is telling me, why don't I just play the Mark Jacasey plus 3.5 points here? That is a bet that I am thinking of making here. I think he can win a round at least and stay away from danger and not get finished. So, yeah, I do think Joel Alvarez wins this one, but I think it's much closer than what people expect. Next up, we have Danny Roberts going up against Johnny Parsons. Danny Roberts is going to be 5 years older. He's going to be at oh my goodness. I always get surprised because this fight is the first one I taped. He's going to be at a 3.5 inch reach, height advantage, and then he's also going to have 5 inches of reach on Johnny Parsons here. Johnny Parsons, there are reports that he's been struggling with concussion symptoms a couple months ago, and when you look at it on a scale, he failed to make weight the first time out. Weighed in again, he made the weight at 171, and we all know Danny Roberts. He has that rubber chin, and I think both fighters are going to come out here and brawl. I think this fight ends under 2.5 rounds. Prediction wise, I think both of these guys are decent strikers. I think Danny Roberts is a much better wrestler than Johnny Parsons. So if he wants to stay out of danger, take Parsons down and drown him with the cardio, drain his cardio. But I just feel like Parsons is going to find the chin of Danny Roberts that's already cracked multiple times and win this fight via knockout. And before we continue, if you guys haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate you all. Let's get these fights going. And next up, we have the featured prelim. We have Davy Grant going up against Daniel Marcos. Davy Grant's going to be the older fighter by 7 years. Davy Grant's going to be 1 inch taller and will have the same reach as Daniel Marcos here. So Davy Grant, we all know him. When he first came into the UFC, he was more of a wrestler than a striker. And then he was the one getting finished by knockout. And all of a sudden, he turned into some wild striker and got 3-4 knockouts in a row. And completely changed the trajectory of his career around, to be honest. Went to wars with Adrian Yanez and the likes of, it's just crazy how he turned around his career. And then you look at Daniel Marcos. Yeah, competition is not the best. When you look at some of these fights, they're in the backyard of some house on the regional scene. It's kind of shocking. But then he came into the UFC, faced Simon Oliveira, and showed some pretty good striking. And the one thing you don't want to do against Davy Grant is get into a striking war, because Davy Grant will knock almost everybody out in a striking war as long as it's not like high caliber talent where they can avoid the looping punches. Now, I'm not saying Daniel Marcos can't get this done. I think the line is off. I think Davy Grant should be the favorite here. But yeah, I think Davy Grant, the much more experienced fighter, fought the better competition and has the power to knock anybody out. So I think Davy Grant wins this fight by knockout, late second round. And I'm sorry to my guy Fight Talk, my man. I'm sorry. I just have to say it how I see it. I have no bets on this fight, but I'm close to pulling the trigger on Davy. I gotta say. Next up, we have another Twitter war. Laron Murphy going up against Josh Kulabau. Laron Murphy is going to be 3 years older. He is going to be at a 1 inch height disadvantage and also is going to have a 0.5 inch reach advantage here. So here's how I see this fight. I think Laron Murphy and Kulabau are both really good strikers. I just think that Laron Murphy leaves a little bit more openings to get hit. We saw against, why am I forgetting his name? Here it is. Gabriel Santos. He got cracked time and time again, and I don't think he won that fight, even though I had a bet on him. The wrestling from Kulabau, if he goes back to his regional scene tape and you see the wrestling, if he tries to go for a takedown or two here, I think it'll benefit him pretty well against Laron Murphy, who has shown that he can give up some bottom time in the UFC. And I think Kulabau is the much more powerful striker in this matchup with the better chin. I think it's going to be very close, but in these situations, it's definitely dog or pass. So I will be taking Josh Kulabau here to take this one by decision. Next up, we have Jai Herbert going up against Fares Ziam. Jai Herbert's going to be 9 years older than Fares Ziam, same height at 6'1", and he's going to be at a 2-inch reach advantage here. When you look at this fight, we have Jai Herbert, who is predominantly a striker slash kickboxer, really decent kicks, solid hand speed here as well. But more than anything, he does have the power to knock people out. And then when you look at Fares Ziam, had the stint where he had to leave the UFC for a little bit, came back, and really showed some improved wrestling. That's the one thing I can take away from his time, from his absence from the UFC. And man, did he show it last time out against Figlock as an underdog, a pretty big underdog. I think Ziam can take Jai Herbert down, ride him out for a couple of rounds, and win a decision here. But more than anything, I think Fares Ziam is going to be the much more clean and much more technical boxer in this fight. More than anything, I think Fares Ziam is the better striker too, with cleaner power. When I say cleaner power, it's just when it translates with the technicality of the boxing. So I think Fares Ziam is going to be able to get this one done inside the distance. But if not, just stick to that money line. You'll be safe. But the price has pretty much gone away. But yeah, I do predict him to win this fight. Next up, we have Andre Muniz going up against Paul Craig. Andre Muniz is going to be the younger fighter by 2 years. He's going to be at a 2-inch height disadvantage, and he's going to be at a 2-inch reach advantage here. Paul Craig moving down 20 pounds from light heavyweight to middleweight here to fight Andre Muniz. And let's just set the record straight for those who are about to say that Paul Craig is a jiu-jitsu ace. Paul Craig is a purple belt, a pretty good purple belt. Andre Muniz is a 3rd-degree black belt. Let that sink in. I think Andre Muniz is the much better striker in this matchup. He's definitely the much better jiu-jitsu practitioner and has the better takedowns. Paul Craig, we already know him to have not the best chin in the UFC, and that was at 205. Cutting down 20 pounds is not going to make it any better. So I think Muniz might be able to catch him on the feet here with those wild hooks. He was landing them left and right on Brendan Allen. And that scared me because I was on Brendan Allen in that spot. And he had him wobbled a couple times. I think a couple of those could wobble Paul Craig and probably get a club and sub here in this spot for Muniz. I think he covers his price tag at the minus 220 pretty easily. So Muniz inside the distance, Muniz parlay piece. I do think that that's a good spot for Muniz here to get right. Next up, we have Nathaniel Wood going up against Andre Fili. Nathaniel Wood's going to be the younger fighter by 4 years. He's going to be at a 5-inch height disadvantage and at a 5-inch reach disadvantage here. So Nathaniel Wood, very clean boxer, can wrestle. He likes to put a pace on people, and he darts in and out of range perfectly here. I love his movement with the striking. Andre Fili, really similar archetype in my opinion. Very fast striker, moves in and out, very lengthy for the division. And I think this fight is closer than people expect it to be, especially at the price tag right now at plus 185. I mean, it's going to be hard for me to take Nathaniel Wood, especially with the huge size disadvantage. I know that he's fundamentally sound on the feet, but when you look at Fili, he's done this against high-level fighters. And I think this is Nathaniel Wood's hardest test to date, personally. Both these guys have a common opponent in Charles Jourdain, and Nathaniel Wood did much better than what Fili did. But I think it's a different type of fight here. But I do think Nathaniel Wood ends up winning this fight. It's just the line is a little bit too wide for me to touch it. I think Wood pieces him up throughout the 3 rounds, gets him tired in the 3rd, and gets the wrestling going, and just keeps Fili's mind thinking about the wrestling constantly, finding openings on the feet too. So give me Nathaniel Wood, but not as confident of a pick, I must say. Next up, we have the co-main event. We have Molly McCann going up against Julia Stolyarenko. Another fight where I'm glad that I waited to break this down until after the weigh-ins for, and you'll see why. Molly's going to be 3 years older than Julia. She's going to be at a 3-inch height disadvantage and a 7-inch reach disadvantage. So a lot of people had the doubts that Yulia Stoliarenko was going to be able to make weight in this spot just because she looked really bad and almost fainted once trying to weigh in at 135, let alone 125 here. She's moving down 10 pounds. But she looked excellent. She looked like a whole different fighter during the weigh-ins today. And she was towering over Molly McCann in the face-offs, man. I must say. I think Julia here is going to be the much better grappler and wrestler. Obviously, Molly's going to be the better striker. I don't think Julia likes to get hit, and I don't think Molly likes to be on the mat. So whoever executes their game plan effectively and faster will likely win this fight. And when it comes to something like that, I would much rather take the dog. The line got away from me. I didn't lock it in earlier in the week when it was at plus 285, so I'm not touching that plus 175. I think this line is pretty accurate from what I would say because Julia does tend to gas if she doesn't get the wrestling going early. So I'm going to say that Julia Stoliarenko wins this fight, but not with the most confidence. Just going to depend on how that cardio looks. And last but not least, we have Tom Aspinall going up against Marcin Tybura. Tom Aspinall, a massive favorite here. He's going to be 7 years younger than Tybura. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have the same reach. Tom Aspinall returning from a very serious knee injury here. And Tybura has been on a little bit of a run lately, but not against I'm not going to say bad competition, but not the cream of the crop like Tom Aspinall. And people are doubting why this line is this heavy of a favorite for Tom Aspinall. And man, I just think Tom Aspinall is the much faster striker here and the much more powerful striker. Like if you look at the difference in size this weekend too, Marcin Tybura looks like he lost some weight. He lost the little belly that he had and he looks lean. But I don't think it's going to help him against Tom Aspinall, who's a fighter that weighed in at 258, which is near the limit around 265. I think Tom Aspinall gets this done in round 1 or round 2 via knockout, personally. I think the price tag will probably look like it's justified. Maybe an early scare with conceding a takedown, but Tom Aspinall's jiu-jitsu is pretty legit. So, yeah, I think Tom Aspinall wins this fight. Not a hot take at all. Probably via knockout, in my opinion. First round or second round. I'd be surprised to see if he goes for a sub. Especially with Tybura getting knocked out 3 times before, back-to-back, I believe it was. I think it's a big difference. But with that being said, I appreciate you all for joining in. Let me go ahead and read up the chat here. Yes, sir. Meatball Molly. I mean, she does have a chance to win this fight. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. I do think that if she implements her game plan and keeps this fight on the feet, she's gonna win this fight. And then we have Fight Talk on Stoliarenko. Ooh, we have a little bit of a debate between Easy and Fight Talk. Yeah, I mean, gut feeling, I would take Stoliarenko at the price tag too, because I don't think Molly should be minus 200 or 300 against almost anyone in the division. Tommy via sub, like I said, I think that would surprise me personally, just because I don't think he wants to go to the wrestling route. Tybura is a decent wrestler. I'm not going to say he's pretty good, but yeah, not the best. Who's your favorite fighter to win? To be honest, I'm going to have to say Mahmoud Muradov. I think that's the lock of the week. But I hate saying that shit. But yeah, I just don't see how Muradov loses this fight. I think he grapples and wrestles Barberena left and right, and we know how bad Barberena is at wrestling, with all due respect. I also like Muniz's chances here too. But yeah, guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down in the chat. If not, I appreciate you all for joining in. Who's definitely not winning? Who's definitely not winning? Probably Barberena. That's an easy one. It's like the opposite of the question you you asked me. Yeah, I don't think Barberena is gonna win tomorrow. I just don't see it happening. You look at the man, yeah, Muradov definitely needs to get back on the high horse here after dropping against Kaio and Gerald Mearshart as a big favorite. Yeah, I gotta stick to the chops. All right, guys, if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this right here. If you have any questions, my DMs are always open on Twitter. So feel free to hit me up about a specific fight, and I will definitely answer all those questions. What fight isn't going the distance? Let's see. A fight that is not gonna go to the distance. I mean, don't be surprised if I say that same one, bro, because I mean, it could, it could. I would be really surprised to see Andre Muniz and Paul Craig go the distance. I'd be really surprised to see, even though it's a WMMA fight, Molly McCann and Julia Stoliarenko. I'd be surprised to see him go to the distance. Those two. I mean, Tom Aspinall and Tybura as well. There's quite a few finishes. Like if I'm counting finishes on this card, Aspinall, Tybura I expect to finish. Molly and Julia I expect to finish. Muniz, Craig I expect to finish. Ziam, Herbert could finish. Danny Roberts and Johnny Parsons. Joel Alvarez and Mark DeCasey could finish. Mick Parkin and Jamal Pogues. Barbarena Muradov. Duncan Ashmuz. Maybe even the first fight with Filo and Barres, just because Barres is an absolute unit. There's a lot of finish potential tomorrow. Who wants to bet that over under with me like last week? Huh? I want some easy money. I'm just joking. But yeah, I do expect a lot of finishes tomorrow in London. It should be a really good card, and I'm looking forward to it. It's an early one, 9 a.m. start time for me. Violence everywhere. Yes, sir. Easy. So I said that I was more bullish on the Pogue side before I saw the weigh-ins today. He weighed in 10 pounds heavier than his last weigh-in, and it looked like it was mainly fat. It didn't look like he was buff. Yeah, dude, I don't know how this happened. You tagged me on my favorite fight. I feel like it's gonna be a beatdown. Pop, pop, pop. All right, my guys. I appreciate you all for joining. Like I said, hit my DMs if you have any other questions. I'm more than happy to answer. But until next week, UFC 291. Peace out. Let's have a freaking killer card.